Are we live? We should be. Think so. Are we live? Good morning, guys. How are we doing? 2 o'clock for me, 9:01 in the New York. Another day, another dollar. Another day, and sorry, someone just purchased the indicator, so I was just sending Sam his cut. Sam is also off today, so doing some work for his cousin, doing some stage 2 fixing of some electronics or electrical work. So he's also just earned a little bit extra on top of his day rate, which is nice. So yeah, nice to give back. Right, going looking from the daily. Not really much has changed other than what we've been talking about for the past couple of weeks. So if you are a new member, I'll give you the short sort of version of what's been happening for the past, anywhere from the past 2 weeks to really 2 years. Cut a long story short, we have been in what we refer to as pretty much just discount extensions, which is pretty much just retracements into a fair value area. And then we get those extensions, which are the moves outside of those ranges. And that's pretty much what we've been or have sold into for the past couple of weeks. But we have finally, so what happens is when we get these retracements into those extensions, typically you need retracements back into discount areas. You can't just go vertically up, right? It's just not sustainable. So what we then do is we then look for the next draws. Now, a traditional sort of extension would be from a low to a high and waiting for that halfway back. It will come at some point, but I guarantee we make a new high before that happens. So as this extension gets larger and larger, what it's actually going to look at is what it's going to look like is probably something like this in the near future. And what that means is when we do finally come down to a traditional halfway back, that area will most likely line up with previous highs, right? It's often what we see in the market. But currently you may be asking, well, why are we not looking or why are we not waiting for the halfway back? Which is a very valid question, but our job isn't to wait or necessarily ask why is the market not coming down to this level. What we want to be looking at is where is the market actually reacting to in real time now, not, in the future. So where we currently are is what would be inside of this high to high. Now it's very aggressive. There's also 2 extensions. There's 2 variations of it. The most aggressive is obviously taking it from the traditional extension, right? That's like the most aggressive high to high in this whole multi-year cycle. There isn't anything else that I would draw from in terms of aggressiveness. This is like the most aggressive. Obviously, there's an extension here, which we haven't yet come down to. And I don't really want to draw. No, I guess I would draw that because we did trade the 62. So I would draw it. I'm not going to because we broke the 23, then retraced into a new draw. So this extension here is as valid as it is because, it's nice to see it lined up with the 62. It's kind of like in the back of my mind just purely because once this level completed, this 23, we then went into a new draw. So this one at the forward front, it comes a little bit more important to me. And it's, it's semantics to a certain degree because it lines up with the 23 as well. So like they both line up very nicely. So they're good to have on your charts for sure. But I always try to pay attention to ideally what's the most important in the current sort of area of price action, which if we just look on a weekly, you can kind of see this has basically been the year and a half worth of price action. So this is where I'm looking at. And if we go into a daily time frame, we can then see a little bit more price action. And you guys who have been here for a while will know this was the halfway back that we traded on the daily time frame after the weekly and the daily ATR reversal in blue. We obviously had the huge ATR Trump candle a while ago telling everyone to buy, which was pretty much the low of the whole year. And you would be very right in thinking that this is the first time we have actually came down to the high to high of that sequence. And pretty much we came right down to that 38.2% retracement, which is pretty much front run by a couple points on the lows there. And we have so far, that has been pretty much the low. And it's an interesting area because, of course, I mentioned the other day, when we came down to the monthly lows this whole area here, if you don't have the indicators, it's not a problem, but they are very important to have. And the fact we've just put them down to 399 is just phenomenal. So if you can get them, I would purchase them. If you can't afford them or don't want to, completely fine. But they are very good at, in terms of seeing where the levels form and how you can react off them, because this here was an ATR that never got rebalanced. Once it completed that target, it completed it with an ATR to the downside, which actually increased in volatility. It was a 2 times versus 1.5. We failed to go lower though. We took out the low, closed above it, got back above the monthly ATR, and so far the target that would make sense is obviously back to all-time highs, which is this purple line here. I'm not necessarily gunning for that or expecting that, you know, anytime soon. It's just if we don't break back down, then most likely we do come back up to this all-time high. Now, the month is about to end next week. So this monthly low, in my opinion, has already done its job. And what I mean by that is if we go to a half an hour time frame, this is where the stats come into play. You can see on this table here, this is telling us out of the times where we break the monthly ATR low, or at least touch it, the average break is about 580 points. Now, when we go back to last Thursday's price action, we came down on the Friday session, which was exactly 586 points. So that stat there saying the average expected below was 580 was pretty much 6 points within its range. So that has been pretty much the low this whole month. So we're now up about 1,300 points from that low. So if anyone took some micro swing trades on last Friday's session, you are being paid handsomely. And for the first time for a while, we actually traded a ETH high, which was on Monday this week, which is very strange to trade. I need to track the stats, but I don't think I've seen an ETH high on a Monday for a long time. It's not anything too sexy. It's just I'm gauging. We typically trade the ETH high a lot less. So to say we've already traded it on Monday is quite rare, I would say, in terms of stats. I'd probably say it's a 10% likelihood of that actually even happening, maybe even less, maybe like 5%. So it is a rare event to do that definitely on a Monday into the close. And it was basically just a Superman pattern. I think going to the daily on the BX, we did close green yesterday, so arguably you would like to say at least longs are somewhat valid. The BX came down to our 37 area where we have that marked at 37 and 37.50, I think the area is. Minus 37.50. And these are just areas that I've seen over time that where we potentially find bottoms. And it wasn't perfect because we spent 1, 2, 3, 4 days at that low. And it wasn't really until we had what was Monday's session where we got back above the ATR, monthly ATR low, and obviously we've been grinding higher ever since. I haven't taken any longs this week. I think I took a couple small trades yesterday, like back and forward. If you're new and you've only been here a couple of days, you're probably thinking like the trades have been, you know, pretty lackluster, and you would be right in thinking that, because I haven't taken anything on stream that's been anything sexy at all. And I'm happy to say that. Like, I'll tell you when I'm trading good and I'll tell you when I'm not doing anything, right? And yesterday and the day before were pretty much like just really lackluster days. So I've just been working on some stuff in the background, but when price is acting tradable or actionable, I'll be there to take advantage of it. But I just haven't really seen anything too worth taking. I don't think, unless you were just long Monday and just continue to one time frame that up, maybe you was lucky, but for me there wasn't anything worth taking in there. And then yesterday it just wasn't clean really for me, so again didn't really take anything. Now going to a 5-minute time frame, going to yesterday's session, now the only thing I would say in hindsight is just follow that trend, right? You guys who have got the indicators, the only reason I didn't really take any longs, I did take a couple, but they were short lasting. The reason I didn't really take too much is all of this here was not worth trading at all, in my opinion. Whether you were long in this area and you took off trades, I would say with quite high certainty that you pretty much had a 50-50. I really don't think you had any edge. And again, it went higher, so I'm saying this knowing that it went higher, but I genuinely don't think there was any edge in this situation. If you've got stats to prove that I'm wrong on that, happy to have a look. But I don't think there was much edge here. Again, I know we came down to the dynamic trend lines, which typically do hold, and when they do hold, we do get those reversals, which we did get. But I probably would have only really been interested once we started to true trend. But at this point, it was basically just high to highs, and we had no green diamonds. So I was like, I'm not taking a high to high extension, and there was no traditionals. So this here was a traditional, no true trend, no green diamonds. And then when you finally did get the triangle up with the true trend, the deviation was so large, the trend is kind of done. And then pretty much when you get that pullback, you get the green diamond. So nothing lined up, really just nothing lined up for me. So again, if you took longs or if you took shorts and you made money, then, you know, brilliant. But for me, just breaking down yesterday, couple shorts, couple longs, nothing really hit home that heavy. And going in today, again, I said yesterday my bias was pretty much mixed. And arguably today, I'm going to say my bias is pretty much neutral. I don't have a clear plan either way. We're right next to, or getting very close to weekly highs on a Tuesday. Is it Tuesday? No, Wednesday. Sorry. Yeah, Wednesday. Wow. We're getting close, like literally, like, you know, a session or two away. Well, put it this way: the 4 hour high lines up with the weekly high. So like, I'm just not madly in love with much at the moment, which is annoying, but I've got payouts pending with a couple firms. So like, I'm not really too bothered. I'm also waiting for accounts to get activated. I've been doing a lot of KYC with trade day, take profit accounts. I'm waiting for payout with Apex, payout with Lucid pending. So there's a lot of stuff going on behind the scenes. So I'm not really too bothered about pushing the foot or the pedal too much, which is nice because there's not really too much standing out for me. So I guess this is just a long-winded way of me saying capital preservation is key for this week, in my opinion. Again, coming up into the end of the month, we do typically get, specifically on the 26th to the 28th, end of month rallies. And looking on the daily time frame, that's kind of what we've been getting, right? A bit of an end of month rally. So I imagine that trend continues. I don't want to give any clear-cut plan in terms of how I'm going to trade it, because I don't have any extensions that I'm really paying attention to on the smaller time frames. All I'm going to really do is pay attention to the indicators, and it will really just be the diamonds, the triangles, and the true trend. I think if all those are aligning, you're above the previous day highs and the dynamic trend lines, then trend is going to continue up. And if that trend breaks, that's fine. You're out the trade. Like that, it's just that simple, right? You don't need to be too mad about I've taken a loss or I'm not on the trend anymore. As soon as that trend breaks, we accept the loss and we get out. And typically we can get out quite advantageous, because like even if you're in a trend here, the trend goes off, you're cutting your trade probably at a win. So I think following and sticking to the indicators specifically, or especially this week, I think is key. Arguably, I don't think you would have taken any trades offside if we were just literally looking at the true trend this week. I really don't. Like, yeah, so I'm just going to stick to those. Again, no clear cut plan for me in terms of extensions. I will just look at what we do on the RTH. Right now, we're above every sort of long criteria. So arguably you would say long, but I'm still a little bit skeptical just yet. But the mechanical robot in me is telling me, you know, longs are on side. You just have to accept the risk and be quite diligent in terms of viewing the true trend. It's probably going to be the most important thing that I'll pay attention to, and that is pretty much going to be this green and red shaded area. Once that is established, but then getting bigger and bigger, and I like to say deviations, like there's large deviations like here. Typically when we get them, I said yesterday, I actually said this in the chat, I screenshotted this photo here before this happened. And I literally said, large deviations, I just can't see the longs here. And probably within 3 minutes after me saying that, we did get like a probably about 100-point drop from the highs, which again, didn't action it, but it just goes to show like, even this, like as bullish as it was, it ended up reversing, then going back into a true trend with no sort of clear halfway back. So, and that would have only formed at probably 3 o'clock whilst the true trend. So like this wouldn't have even been an actionable long to take either. So again, long-winded way of me saying like, I'm just not really seeing overly too much this week. So far, again, it's Wednesday. We've got plenty of, 2 days left in the week, so it's not the end of the world, but I am definitely going to take my foot off the gas a little bit. I don't think I've traded any day this week with all of my accounts, which is good, because last week I was trading most of my accounts at the same time, and I just thought I just don't think you're not going to be right every time, and I just don't think long term it's good to do that. So I will cycle those accounts like one firm at a time, one trade at a time, and I think that's probably the best way to go. It means obviously you're not going to make more when you're right necessarily, but at least if you are wrong, you aren't going to be losing too much either. So I'd rather have that now that I've also built the accounts up to a sustainable area. I think that's probably the best thing to do. So we'll see what we get on the open. Again, every long criteria currently is being met, so take that with a pinch of salt. But as soon as that true trend starts to break, I honestly think you just need to be on the side of true trend. And I think if you're on that side and you've got at least 2 or 3 other indicators on your side, previous day high, BX, some diamonds or triangles, I don't think you could go wrong. I really don't. So that's what we will do. Keep it nice and easy. And yeah, I'll probably draw some extensions in the room from yesterday. They'll most likely line it with a high to high from what was this draw here. So this extension completed. I would probably go same anchor new high, and that lines up with the moment at the 4-hour low. So if we do get a bit of a stop hunt at the 4-hour low, get back above the previous day high, form that as support, I imagine we'll be in true trend at that point. So I would probably want to see something like this. And then if we're going to go higher, let the manipulation happen. Let that stop run happen to the highs. Let them short these double top highs by the pullback, previous break and retest to the previous day high, then push that up into maybe the weekly high. I wouldn't say it's a huge trade. It's 160 points. Maybe we get 80 to 100. It's worth taking, but it's just not. It's just not it. It's probably like a C+ trade. Anyway, I will see you all on Whoop. Everyone on YouTube, click the link below if you want to sign up. And again, the indicators currently 399. If you can get them on your screen. They will save you. Yeah, other than that, guys, I will see you on Whoop in 2 minutes, and everyone on YouTube,